Hello folks, how are things going? Hopefully you enjoyed the John Oliver video. I think it does a great job of reviewing the basic questions you should ask whenever you're confronted with a scientific study. However, there are some things unique to the academic context that you should know. The most important of those being the structure of the typical scientific report. And so I want to review those things real quickly in this particular video, right? And so mostly we're going to talk about the IMRAD genre. The IMRAD stands for Introduction, Methods, Results, and Discussion, right? And the IMRAD genre is mostly ubiquitous across the sciences. So here's a study that looks at its adoption within the medical field. And so it's looking at 4 different medical journals and looking at how often those studies appeared within these journals. And you can see at the beginning of the 20th century, it was very rarely used. But towards the end of the 20th century, it was nearly universal. And I think that's true across the disciplines. So chemistry, physics, the social sciences, almost all of them use the IMRAD format. And so I think it's useful to know some things about it and how it works, right? So as I said, it stands for Introduction, Methodology, Results, and Discussion. So let me go ahead and take you through each section so you get a sense of what each of their purposes are and how you can use this information to help you read these particular documents, right? So the introduction, basically the main question is designed to ask is what gap in the research the study is trying to address, right? And so basically what you're going to find in the introduction is a review of the research. So they're going to go through the existing research of the question and then build towards a gap in that research that the study is trying to fill, right? And so this section is particularly useful if you're new to a research area and you don't know a whole lot about a particular body of research. You can use the introduction to help you figure it out and then track down those studies and read them so you can become better acquainted, right? The methodology section is basically asking what methods the study is using to address their research questions, right? And so they talk about the participants, the instruments, the procedures they use, what materials they use, and sometimes where they got those materials from, and the rationale behind all these things. And sometimes statistical methodologies too, right? And so you want to read the methodology section really carefully if you're thinking about doing a study in this particular area, and so you want to know some details about how they went about their particular research. Or if you have some questions about the results and you want to know something about the methods to shed some more light on it, typically the methodology section is a good place to find those things. The results section talks about the study's major findings. And so basically the goal here is to talk about the facts about what the study found without any spin or interpretation whatsoever. Typically there's a narrative of the results that's presented and also tables and charts that sort of reveal the major findings. Typically, I don't spend a lot of time reading the narrative really carefully, but I do pay a lot of attention to the tables and the graphs and so forth that reveal the major results. And so I think you should take that approach too. I think, in fact, the first thing you should look at whenever you look at a scientific study is the results, right? So look through the data, look through the findings, get a sense of what they discovered with their particular approach, right? And the last thing is the discussion section, and the discussion section is where they speculate about their findings. They talk about some reasons they may have discovered particular things, some possible explanations. They also talk about the limitations of their study and also the next questions that they think people should ask. I think the discussion section is one of the first things you should read, particularly the opening paragraphs of the discussion section often offer a summary of the findings, which I think is also quite useful. And also, a lot of the things that are really important, like how the study connects back to the existing research, is also discussed in the discussion section. One thing you'll notice in the discussion section is there's often a lot of speculative hedging language, like they may say maybe, or one possible explanation is, or could possibly be, all that kind of language. Often people confuse that as uncertainty on the researcher's part, but that's not the case, right? Often the researchers may be really confident about their findings, right? But really confident about the explanation for their findings. But the reason they use that hedging language is because the nature of scientific research is they can't be completely certain, right? And so when you're reading through that, when you see those might be and could be's, don't mistake that as lack of confidence on the researcher's part. Often they are quite confident about the reason for their particular results, right? So hopefully that helps you out. And I'm expecting you to deploy these strategies when you read through the scientific study that's due with this particular module.